In this weekly SMC outlook, I'm sharing my exact trade plan for the DXY, the euro, the pound, and also the dollar Swiss franc. So if we haven't met yet, my name is Justin Bennett, forex trader since 2007, full-time trader since 2011. As always, all of this is my opinion only and not financial advice. All right, guys, so I'm getting back from a sickness. Obviously, my voice is not great. Hopefully you guys can hear me okay. I'm going to try to get through this video. But first up, let's look at the DXY here on the 1 hour time frame. So obviously a big drop here last week. Okay, and really, toward the end of January, we saw the US dollar really slide lower here with this move and then also this one here. So both impulsive moves. However, last week we did see the market put in a bottom. Now, this was an ascending triangle here that we talked about in Discord. So I announced this to VIP members back here when the DXY was through here, talking about the potential for a short-term bottom back here toward these highs and potentially this area back here next week. And sure enough, we did get confirmation of that on Friday with a nice little move here from the US dollar. Now, the key for the US dollar, though, is going to be these highs right back here. So right around 97.30, these highs are going to be obviously resistance for this market. And also, this is going to be an internal pivot to where if we were to see the DXY reclaim this area, so acceptance above here, then that could open up this imbalance. Now, all of this is occurring. If you look at the monthly time frame, we've talked about this before, but on the monthly time frame, you can see this channel that goes back to 2011. If we move in here, you can see where the DXY is currently right there at that level. So January closed very close to this level. It's unclear if we broke it or we're above it. I'm not going to sit here and try to pinpoint that exactly because I don't have to. All I have to do is look at the hourly time frame and know that these highs right back here are internal. So all of this was internal within this move lower. So even an acceptance above here is not going to be the bottom, in my opinion, for the US dollar because the last external high was this one up here. Okay, and the reason for that is you had this bottom form, you had these highs form, we took out those highs, took out that liquidity, and then we had a BOS. So really the protected high for the DXY here is going to be this high right up here. Okay, so that's important because it's important to understand that all of this price action through 98, essentially 98.87, all the way down here to this low, all of this right here is just internal. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't trade that because I do think that following this right here, if we were to get a move lower next week, then we are probably going to see a move back here toward this imbalance. Okay, so I am short-term bullish on the US dollar if we get a pullback next week. And also the fact too that if you look here from this external high, so external high down here to the low, our OTE right here, okay, so premium is up here. So look at where the 50% is too. Right here at these highs, you have OTE right up here in this area, which we also have an imbalance through here as well. All of these fair value gaps. So in my opinion, this is going to be the one to watch here over the coming weeks. But again, it is looking a little bit bullish here, at least in the short term. If we were to get a pullback next week down here into some of these imbalances, so looking at the 4 hour time frame, if we were to get a pullback down here into this pocket, essentially this candle right here next week, then that could be essentially a short-term long for the US dollar back here toward this imbalance. But then from there, that could potentially be the location that we get a continuation of this trend, but we'll have to wait and see how this plays out. Obviously, if the DXY were to take out this high up here over the coming weeks, then that would give us more confidence in a macro bottom for the US dollar. Okay, so similar situation for the euro. And last week in Discord, one of the benefits of being in Discord is that I did talk about this area up here for the euro as we were approaching it last week. Okay, so back here on this run up, the reason this was significant, I'll show you here in a second, but first on the hourly time frame, you can see where we did have a break of structure back here. So on the hourly, we had a BOS above these highs. So that means that this down here is going to be a significant low. However, here is the key for this as well, just like with the DXY, is that really, in my opinion, this low down here, even though it does look significant, and it is, this here is still internal. So this run up back here, what you'll notice is that this right here was internal. Okay, so internal move lower. This was external, especially once we had the BOS up here. And then this right here is all just internal within this price leg. So that's important to understand because we could still just see the euro come back here and sweep these lows into this imbalance right here following the displacement. Okay, so in other words, come back here, mitigate this area down here, and then that could be potentially the bottom. Okay, now I'm not trying to forecast because I don't have to. All I'm doing is reacting to whatever's on the chart. But right now, that is kind of what I'm looking at here for the euro. We do have this imbalance back here in this region. And just like with the DXY, if you take here from this last external low down here, up here to the external high, you can see where it's interesting that OTE lines up right here with this imbalance. Okay, so short-term bearish on the euro next week. If we were to get a retrace from this low up here toward this pocket, we could get that continuation lower down here toward this region. At that point though, right around 1.18, that's going to be the area, in my opinion, to watch for a potential bottom to form. Okay, now the thing about the euro, the really interesting part here is that if we go to a weekly time frame, you'll note that last week's candle, okay, I'm going to get rid of this here so we can clean it up here a little bit. You'll notice that last week's candle here poked above the top of this channel. Okay, so once again, markets love symmetry, and this isn't about finding support and resistance here with this channel. It's more to say that when you get a trend like this, okay, so this trend right here, you get the market essentially revolving around the mean. So if you draw a line through the middle of this, you have buy side distribution, you have sell side distribution, buy side distribution up here. Now, what's also interesting here is that you'll notice that this high right back here, when the market formed this high, we had 3 touches. Okay, and even though these highs here did not touch this level, you still had 3 swing highs before the rotation lower. And what's interesting is that we have the exact same pattern right now. Now, again, I'm not forecasting here. I'm not saying that that's going to happen again. It is just an interesting observation though. And if we go to the monthly time frame, I wouldn't normally put this much emphasis on a monthly time frame, except for the fact of where we are trading right now. So what you'll notice here, first of all, going back to the weekly here real quick, to cover this before we go into the monthly, is that this candle right back here. So we talked about this in Discord last week. This is why I was telling members to be careful of a move higher, because you had this void back here, okay, this fair value gap back here on the weekly between 1.2 and 1.21. So that's exactly where we saw the euro retest last week. Okay, so with this candle, so here is that fair value gap from back here in 2021. And then you can see where last week's candle did mitigate that. Okay, so we'll see if this becomes material or not, guys. This could just be a case where we mitigate it here, pull back a little bit, and then continue higher. So keep that in mind. This does not mean that the euro has topped. It's not about forecasting, guys. It's about reacting to what's on the chart. And when we do that, we're looking at, again, this internal price action back here on the run up. And then this is your external low, in my opinion, with this area down here being OTE, okay? So right now, still bearish on the euro, looking for a sweep of these lows down here into this imbalance. But then I think from 1.175 to about 1.18, this is going to be the area down here to watch for a potential bottom. If we were to take this out and start closing below some of these lows back here, then that of course could be more bearish for the euro. Now, one thing I want to show you guys too is, because we have talked about this before, and I actually mentioned this to VIP members last week as well, is that right back here, you can see where we actually had that same liquidity sweep pattern form actually a couple of times. So off of this high right here, you can see we did sweep this high right here on this candle. We then had displacement down. Now, in this case, the market actually came back here and retested this and even took it out a little bit. However, that ended up being the top. Now, you'll also see that right back here, we had the exact same pattern form. So off of this high right up here, and again, we talked about this in Discord. I've made full videos on how to trade this. I made a full blog post last week on how to trade this, but this right here is a liquidity sweep above the high. So we took the stops above here. We had acceptance below. This was the area to short, okay? So really nice clean pattern here. And you will see this stuff form over and over again on the 15-minute time frame, even the 5-minute time frame when a market is trending like this. Okay, so we did have some short opportunities last week on the euro here to play this short-term downtrend. But the bottom line is, like I said, on the 1-hour time frame, these lows back here are going to be critical, but all of this, in my opinion, is internal, with this down here, this low down here around 116, let's see, 116.70 or so is going to be the external low. So next up we have the pound, which very similar situation here to the euro. We do have internal lows back here that could be significant on the way down. We will certainly see buyers come out and try to defend this area. But the question is, and this is where traders get tripped up, is are these external lows, in the sense that if we were to close below, does this give us a change of character? Okay, and a confirmed top. And in my opinion, all of this back here was internal. And you can simply see that when you just zoom out here, a lot of people get tripped up by this, by what is internal, what is external. But when you look at this here, okay, this price action back here, and then you look at this and this, is this internal or external? You can clearly kind of see that within this price leg, all of this is internal. This down here is external, okay? Because we had the market come down here and sweep internal liquidity back here, give us this external low, and then this is our external high. This is all just internal, okay? So that matters here for the pound, because if we take from the low down here, so this external low up here to this external high, you can see where we do have OTE coming in down here. Now, there's a case to be made too. You could say that this low down here is also external, because we had internal liquidity build, the market formed a lower low, took that out, and then we had the change of character. So if that's the case, then you would essentially have an OTE that looks something like this. Okay, so this one down here, so all the way down here, all the way to up here. The point is that this is clearly an imbalance for this market. Notice the displacement up. We never had the market come back and mitigate it. So even if we see the pound come back here and take out these lows over the coming weeks, which, in February, look, I am looking for a move down here into this pocket, right? This displacement that we haven't seen any retrace into. So short term, like the euro, I am bearish. I am looking for that push down here into this region, but it's important to not get too bearish down here because again, this is going to be a critical area for this market following that displacement. Okay. And you can also see here too on the pound, speaking of that liquidity sweep pattern, if you look here on the 1 hour time frame, you can see this right back here. And we didn't play this one, but you can see right here off of these highs. And this was actually when the market came back here into this imbalance. But you can see where we had the high back here, we swept the high, we then had acceptance below. Okay, so really clean pattern there once again. But the point here is that you will see these liquidity sweep patterns form over and over again. You can see it up here once again. We had the high form, stops formed above the high, we swept them, and then we had acceptance below the lows. So even over here too, once again, you can see this pattern here off of this high. We swept at a high just barely, closed below, the lows down here. Okay, so this right here, that was your confirmation of the continuation of this trend. We came up here, mitigated that, and then even formed another liquidity sweep here before the continuation lower. Okay, now in terms of next week though, if I look at the 15-minute time frame, there's a pocket up here that I'm interested in that if we were to get a return to this area, so these candles right here specifically, if we were to get a return up here in this area, so right around 1.376, 1.377, then this is going to be an area up here that I would look for a low time frame change to play that downtrend that we're seeing here so far on the pound. Okay, so that's what I'd be looking for on the 15-minute time frame if we were to get it for a push down here into the lows. Obviously though, if we were to just push lower down here and take out these lows down here, then that could change things. And you can also see here too, last thing here, before we move on to the dollar Swiss franc, off of these highs too, if we draw out a distribution channel, you can see that this is our current trend. Okay, so this is our current trend here on the lower time frames. If we draw a mean through here, you can see the market is essentially just distributing to this, up here to the buy side, down here to the sell side, and then mean reverting every time. Okay, so this right here is your mean or average price. All we are doing is just distributing to either side and then mean reverting. Okay, so in that context, the point here is that if we get a move up here, okay, so this right here was the area that I mentioned, this up here. You can also see we have another one right here on these candles. If we were to see a move up here toward this region, we could just see a continuation of this to move down here toward this imbalance. All right, so last up we have the dollar Swiss franc. And this is another reason too, guys, why I'm not convinced that the US dollar has bottomed for good. I know there's a lot of people talking about that, but if you look here at the daily time frame, what you'll notice is that the dollar Swiss franc recently broke below a massive range here going back about 7 months. So back here to July, we have this low here, all these lows through this area, and we have broken down now with displacement. And we've even closed now a monthly close below because January just closed up. So you can see here that this right here is a significant break. Okay, so we could essentially call this a BOS on the monthly time frame. So going back here to the daily, if we look here from this high that broke, okay, so this is the high that broke that level that gave us the BOS, you can see that we do have OTE up here in this region, okay? So if we do get a return again, short-term bullish on the US dollar, as long as this slowdown here holds, back here towards some of these imbalances, same thing for the dollar Swiss franc. But from there, I think you've got to be careful because if we were to get a low time frame bearish change of character up here, then that of course could be a continuation of this trend. Okay, so that's what I'm looking at here for the dollar Swiss franc. Basically, if you look at this on the hourly, it is starting to look a little bit more constructive here with this low forming. So you can see on Friday, we just barely got to close above this high back here, which is also internal. Okay, it's internal because we never saw a BOS on this leg here. So this is still just an internal high. However, with that said though, and this is all internal as well, keep that in mind too. But with this here, if we were to see a pullback next week, that could be a continuation of this trend up here toward this imbalance. So the area that I'm watching here on the dollar Swiss franc is going to be this imbalance right back here. Okay, now we labeled out OTE on the daily, but you can see here that you could technically make the case that this move, okay, this last BOS started from here. So this right here was your low. We had internal liquidity form. We took that out. We then had a BOS. So if you use this here, same thing like the other pairs, this area right back here is going to be OTE. Okay, so right around 785 up toward about 788 or so. And looking back here too, you can see where we do have this massive fair value gap in the market. Okay, so a lot of displacement on this move has not been mitigated yet. So I am looking for the market to come back here and mitigate this and tag or induce any resting orders back here. And then potentially from there, we get a continuation. Okay, now at the same time though, you can also see where here on the hourly time frame, with this market, you can see where we do have some imbalances that formed here too on Friday. Okay, so with this big move up, you can see imbalance down here as well. However, if this market's going to stay bullish short term, I would not be looking for a move down here. This is the pocket though that I would keep a close eye on next week, right down here, right around 77, because a move down here followed by continuation could give us that push up there into those buy side imbalances. Okay, so still bearish overall, guys, but if we get the market holding on to some of these lows, then we could see a short-term bottom form for the US dollar. But again, it is way too soon to be talking about a bottom for the US dollar. The market has a lot more work to do. Okay, so still bearish overall in the US dollar, but we could see some short-term relief. If this video helped, be sure to keep it locked in here, subscribe to the channel. Also check out this video right here where I walk you through how to mark up, break up structure, and change of character. Have a great weekend, and I will talk to you again next week.